one finger at this point because they won that A attack on Hollywood in overtime, and outside of that, haven't really convincingly won any other fights. Maybe they can change the story right now in Lunar Colony, but we'll have to see.
Well, they're going to have to, because this is their last chance to stay in this series, potentially push it through to that tiebreaker if they can get these last two maps.
Look at Yuki's ult charge already. It's like he's just 20% above of some people, especially the sitting drop bears, 10 above Candace as well.
He's 30% above Villa, his counterpart on drop bears, so that's in itself quite a big deal.
Still waiting for how drop bears are going to attack at this point. May have found an opening here. Some people caught out on the Mastermind side.
Yeah, Yuki does go down there early on in the piece, but it is a trade, a support for a DPS. Not sure who really comes out of that one a little bit favoured, but Sydney drop bears are starting to get a little bit more on the board than Masterminds are at this point. There is still some potential to hold on to this one for Masterminds, particularly Yuki coming up on 80% of that Dragon Blade. If he can get back to this point relatively quickly, might be able to make the difference. Taki still sitting around or dancing around on that Tracer, causing a bit of a problem, but Dalsu going down early on in the piece there. That makes any real thought of a recontest here for Masterminds a little bit grim. Taki throws out the Pulse Bomb. They're not getting too much done. I think at this point, Masterminds probably have to give up on this trickle. Sydney drop bears are just getting a lot of free ultimate charge off the back of that, and it seems like Yuki has recognized that. He's just deciding to back off towards that B point. But drop bears, that's a fairly quick cap here on Horizon.
It's a very respectable cap indeed. They still managed to take over 1 minute. It was one attempt. I think that's the most important thing to say. Drop bears didn't get reset. They didn't get forced back to spawn. They did it all in one attempt, although it was a long attempt. But now, 5 about ultimates coming up. Yeah. Masterminds on the defense. Dalsu changing to Ana. By the way, there's been a substitution. Taki's in, Color Hex out. Yeah,
a lot of ultimates available for Sydney drop bears. No support ultimate for Masterminds right now. Candace at 81%. If drop bears can pick that, they do! Jordation gets Candace. This could be a very, very quick second cap out from drop bears if they can execute. Villa needs to get that Dragon Blade out. Quads the Primal Rage comes out, and Shoyo's self-destruct is there. All the ultis being used by the drop bears, but they're not getting the kills that they need. Still, the stagger is in effect, and Masterminds keep that trickle going onto the point. Now here comes Yuki with his Dragon Blade. Chases down Bertlog, gets that first one. Villa hasn't really been able to get too much out of his Dragon Blade either, and this just hasn't been executed the way that the drop bears needed it to be.
And drop bears needed a lot more kills there, right? Because you have to account for the second wave of respawns. When you go in like that, to get 100%, you have to beat that defense twice. They barely beat it the first time. In fact, maybe not even that. They got an 0.5 win, a half fight win. And that's not quite good enough, especially when you come in 6 ultimates. They managed to get all 6, and none of that was enough to even get one.
And it couldn't have started off better for Masterminds either. Bertlog getting picked, Candace getting picked off so early by Jordation with the Pulse Bomb. I thought that was going to be that. I thought Sydney drop bears had it in the bag there. All they needed to do was follow up on it, but it just wasn't there. And now Masterminds.
That's got to be a pick. Yeah,
it is going to be a pick. So maybe there's another opening here for the drop bears as Quants does dispatch of Taki. The dive comes in onto the high ground, and that's now been secured for drop bears. 2 picks now.
This is actually looking really positive, turning into a third, so now they're really able to snowball this one through. Dalsu's still got a nano boost, so who's going to use it on? Would like to see it on Nellery, but Nellery's in spawn right now. Masterminds might not have time to wait.
I think they probably do at this point. Nellery does just come up there, but Dalsu ends up using it onto Taki. Perhaps not the ideal target there. Shoyo popping out the self-destruct. Not much from it, but a remake does come across, and Sydney drop bears. This is suddenly starting to look a little bit better for them. Unfortunately, though, they're not fighting on the point. They're chasing a Winston with Primal Rage away from the point. That's going to give Masterminds a little bit of time to kind of respawn back in here. 1 tick does go across to Sydney drop bears. Now the second is still being contested by Masterminds. Sydney drop bears haven't got enough out of this one as of yet. They need more. That's a great Helix rocket, but not enough to dispatch of Yuki before Jordation does go down. Still, Sydney drop bears are winning this fight, though. It's a very prolonged one.
Candace going to come out with a Transcendence, though, so look out for that one. It might be enough to save Masterminds. GC just shy of that second tick. And I want to go back and highlight Nellery's play there with the Primal Rage. He drew Sydney drop bears 3 members away from the cap at a very critical time. Jordation and the rest of the drop bears needed to try and focus on the cap. They let Masterminds GC respawn again, let them take ground most importantly. Spawn camping the defense as the attackers is actually very important, and you can't do that if half your team is chasing a Winston.
Yeah, well, that's one of the important things here on a an assault map is not allowing those respawners to have too much of an effect, but that's exactly what Sydney Drop Bears is allowing to happen. Masterminds have been hanging on by the skin of their teeth for about 30 or 40 seconds in that last fight, but they make it work, and now Sydney Drop Bears again are going to have that tough job of pushing back in onto the fight.
Oh,
Billa,
another hack.
That's a good hack. Taki does go down. Again, Yuki as well dropped, so both of the DPS out of the picture now for Masterminds. This has to be the go signal for the Drop Bears. They need to be able to get at least another tick here, if not close out the map. Jordation popping off the tactical visor, gets some good effectiveness out of that one. Not a whole lot that Kiki could do in response to it. And we do see the Primal Rage come out from Quad. Sydney Drop Bears, or the Primal Rage coming out from Mastermind. Sydney Drop Bears still having some trouble getting these points on the board. Nellery is still alive. Billa has got an EMP though. We'll see how that plays out, and that could very well be a key part of this fight as he does drop it down. Yuki can't get too much done. Certainly can't use that Dragon Blade, but he's still alive.
Oh man, Sydney Drop Bears, they committed so much as well to just walk away from that. They at least do get that second tick, so it's not, you know, it's not, they didn't get nothing, but it's not enough. They needed a bit more from that, because the EMP needs to be what will finish this map. It can't be, okay, we're kind of losing, maybe we EMP now to try and save it. It didn't do that job. It wasn't good enough in our Masterminds GC. Coming back onto 5 ult, Canters this time returns a favor onto Jordation. Quick res though, but can they get that early start again? Last time they got Taki and Yuki, I'm not expecting that kind of early start.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfect again for Sydney Drop Bears. The opening's always really, really good for them, but the follow-up is not there in those fights. The Drop Bears, they seem to be making things happen, but just not enough. It's a good pulse bomb out of Taki and followed up onto Bertlog as well, getting more damage actually out there onto Face. And again, it's Masterminds now. They've just completely turned things around.
It was nearly a punish as well. Billo just barely missed out on finishing that hack, which would have been so critical. And Taki's been one of the main hack targets. Every time, in fact, Taki's been hacked, he's been killed off. That could have also been Sydney Drop Bears, the opening they were looking for, but it was the opposite. At least they got a pulse bomb out. They lost time for it though, so I wouldn't take that trade in hindsight, but Sydney Drop Bears are going to have to live with it.
I feel like Sydney Drop Bears have had the ideal opening a couple of times and they haven't been able to convert it yet, so they need at least another one of those. I mean, they got a tick each time. They still need that third and final tick here. Not a whole lot of time left for them to play with, but they're going to be making their way on to the point now. Here comes Valkyrie out from Face. Yuki trying to chase down Jordation, but that is an excellent defensive transcendence. Great work from Bertlog. Again, Yuki goes down early on in the piece. The self-destruct now out from Shoyo to push Masterminds away from the point. Kiki, though, is always coming up better with this. And I don't even know where he's managing to find these self-destructs from, but it's keeping Masterminds in this.
They're able to clutch this through so many times, 30 seconds and less now. Yuki even coming out on your favorite Doomfist, if you like. And it's Sydney Drop Bears. They have an EMP. Look, it's something, but it may still not be enough. If Kiki or somebody just gets those return kills, Drop Bears got to snowball so many kills. Like I said, they almost need 2 waves of defenders killed to finish this map. At least now, they might be able to alleviate the fact that they only have 33%, 0.3 to finish the map, but looks tough.
At least Drop Bears can fight on their own terms here, or perhaps not, as Yuki is just completely bullying them away from the high ground. There's a couple of skirmishes, and the healers are completely isolated from the rest of the Drop Bears camp. Billa hasn't even been able to use that EMP at all just yet, finally managing to get that one across, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Again, it's going to be to try and pull them back into the fight, not necessarily win them the fight. And in fact, it can't even do that, as the Masterminds will hold strong. Jordation can't quite get there in time, despite flying from the high ground. It's a pretty decent hold from Masterminds.
Not a bad attack, all things considered. 76.9 is a good amount of progress. It's not no progress, as was previously stated. But right now, if you're Sydney Drop Bears, you're looking for a little bit more than some progress. You're looking for full map completions. You're looking for, you know, something that will give you the ability to fully beat Masterminds GC, not just, okay, we made it competitive, because making it competitive, although this is an improvement from the last 2 maps, they're heading in the right direction, but it doesn't seem like they'll arrive at their destination on time.
No, it certainly doesn't, and Masterminds, well, it seems like they will. Again, they've decided to go back onto the quad tank setup. We saw how well that worked out on Hollywood. Certainly very effective on the first point of Horizon. My concern, again, is when they get to that second point, if they can't really just steamroll over it, that might be where Sydney Drop Bears can hold them off. But from past experiences so far, Sydney Drop Bears haven't really been able to hold off Masterminds at all. So maybe that, even in itself, is not relevant.
And we'll see what they can do with Jordation now freshly minted on that Junkrat, billet back onto the Sombra as well. And I do want to highlight the fact that if the Drop Bears can get a little bit of momentum rolling themselves, first of all, Junkrat is great against tanks. Second of all, Billa with the EMP and with Hack in general can shut down a lot of the Masterminds GC lineup here. So if Sydney Drop Bears can force one full reset into Masterminds GC, once the sort of ultimates become a factor, that's when it's good for Drop Bears. But their most dangerous fight is this opening one. If Masterminds can steamroll and force their way into the cap and cap it through in that opening fight, Drop Bears got no chance. It has to be at least one completed defense, one completed team fight on that first defense.
Well, let's find out how it is going to go as Masterminds will start their rollout now. And it's going to be, you know, fairly straightforward. They're just going to run themselves onto the point and see if they can find a fight there. Yeah. Not sure exactly where they're going to group up here just yet. Looks like left side.
Note the ultimates as well. Either Cantus or Jordation will get the first ultimate, and they should be charging up way ahead of the rest of their teams.
Well, note also, Yuki starting to charge up, already up to 80%, so that's really dangerous here for Sydney Drop Bears. Of course, a lot of spam does come through from the Junkrat, which allows the Zaya a lot of easy charge. And already they're onto the point, so danger territory now for Sydney Drop Bears. This is where they need to find those picks. Yuki, again, pumping out the damage right now, really putting the pressure onto the Drop Bears, and they've already been forced off the point. This is not fun at all. Masterminds playing this one to perfection, and Sydney Drop Bears have been given no room to maneuver.
Here comes a Junkrat tire though, and if I find something, it could be good. It so far doesn't look very good at all. Kiki's even found Jordation in the mix of that, and now the Drop Bears are just losing too many members.
Yeah, not sure exactly what happened to that tire, but I think it just disappeared and didn't really do a whole lot. This is really looking bad now for Sydney Drop Bears as they continue to try and fight their way on that point. Already sound barrier out for Masterminds as well. And Yuki definitely doing a lot of damage with this Graviton Surge. Gets so many in there. Kiki following up on it with 3 kills. This is looking excellent for Masterminds. It's taking a while for them to cap this point, but inevitably it is going to go their way.
We talk about the first attempt again. This is the first attempt from Masterminds GC. Look at Sydney Drop Bears. They kind of just let Masterminds onto the point. That's where they are the strongest. If you're Sydney Drop Bears, you need to intercept that. And again, straight onto the point. No time wasted. Drop Bears slow to the party.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Masterminds needed to do. Get very quickly onto that second point. Really put the pressure on Drop Bears early. And Masterminds with that early coalescence out. A lot of damage comes out from Yuki. Everyone's still alive for Masterminds. This is not very fun if you are a Sydney Drop Bears supporter right now. Already 2 ticks underway, and we're getting very close. No one from Drop Bears even gets on it. That's the 3-0 now for Masterminds. They win the series, and Sydney Drop Bears, they can really only kind of hope to fight for some sort of respect in this final map.
This should be that Taki double kill as well onto the back lines during the B attack, and it indeed is. And look right here, the hack just barely missed out. If Billa completed that hack, could have been very different. Billa was also the one that died to the pulse bomb though, so sad face for the Drop Bears.
Wow. Dear Masterminds, you have my sincerest apologies for saying you were going to lose this earlier in the week on social. Clearly, I was very, very wrong, because that has been an incredible 3 maps coming out from them so far. And it looks to me like, I don't want to preempt the fact that I said it definitely was. I'm not going to say it's going to be a 4-0, but then I did say it was not going to be a 4-0, but there's a real risk that that is what this is. And irrespective of that, this has changed the whole dynamic now of our leaderboard that we'll see later 100%. On after these games. Because, well, man, that...
Technically, Sydney Drop Bears is still going to be on top after
Yeah, but they have played more games.
I know.
So, you obviously need... Technically, yes, but when it gets to everyone's played their 5 matches, it's this is going to be real costly for the Drop Bears.
Yeah. And you sort of ask me, like, is it possible that Sydney Drop Bears can make a comeback? And I said, look, if they sort of find the answers in time, they get their stuff together in time. But time is already run out. 3-0 now. If they even do it by the 4th map, first of all, it's too late because they're out of the match. But secondly, it's like, based on what we saw in Horizon Lunar Colony, it doesn't seem apparent just yet that they can bring it back in time, even for map 4.
It's already past the 11th hour.
Yeah,
at this point.
It feels like, we've talked about this a bit, but this Masterminds team looks to be a level above the Drop Bears. I'm not saying that's the case. Maybe the Drop Bears just match up poorly against Masterminds. Maybe it's the fact that we've seen 12 maps already played by the Drop Bears that the Masterminds can go and look at, or maybe they are just that much better. It's a look at the moment. That's where I'm leaning towards. It's tough.
I definitely agree. I think Masterminds is probably a little bit of a cut above Sydney Drop Bears from what we're seeing. Like, coming into this season, it always sort of felt like there was that top 3 and then there was that top 4. But it was the top 3 that was kind of really locked in. And the top 4 was like, is Sydney Drop Bears going to be able to challenge for that sort of group as well? Or were they kind of like that one little outlier on their own? And
they had such a great start, and obviously they got off to a very quick start, the benefit of having a few games in a row, and they could make the most of that, you know, push through with the momentum. Again, we've talked about whether teams will be able to, at what point they hit their cap and how early on they might hit their cap. But it seems to me that obviously the Drop Bears will make playoffs. We know that. But what happens when they get there? If you lose first round, you lose second round, then that's tough luck. So that's definitely less than ideal. But we have one more map left to go today. Let's go and take a look at what it will be. Finally, Elfishguy, we get Junkertown. Thank you very much to the Drop Bears for that one. At least you're giving me something today. Because other than that, all you're giving me is heartache.
Yeah, it's going to be Drop Bears bringing Sydney to Junkertown, or Junkertown to Sydney. One of the
One of the two, yeah. Speaking of two, they've played it twice. They've won it both times. As of yet, undefeated on Escort. But I kind of feel like maybe
undefeated on everything.
Undefeated on everything before today. So far, they've been defeated on everything up until this point. So maybe every single little bit of undefeatedness is going to be defeated.
One thing I do want to look at is the fact that, yeah, there have been 12 maps that Sydney Drop Bears have played that Masterminds could study on, but I haven't really seen too much evidence of Masterminds specifically playing around what Drop Bears were doing. It's not like, okay, Drop Bears do this, we will try and get this direct counter. It's more so Masterminds playing their set standard gameplay. Now, I know how this team works. They have a lot of set plays. They're going to have more set plays here, you better believe it. And they do these things on the maps they play. On Hollywood, like specifically, they will do that same defense with the same composition, the same setup, plays in the same positions every time. And it's Sydney Drop Bears not being able to counter that, even when, like, maybe they should. I sort of said it already. Like, it's if you can get past that first fight, just sort of make Masterminds back off, they're going to have to kind of change up their strategy. But when Masterminds are allowed to just play what they want to do, what they've set up to play, that's when they're dangerous.
Yeah, well, surprised actually that Color Hex is not on the Widowmaker here. So see how much room Jordation is going to be afforded by that fact, and whether or not Masterminds is going to be able to do anything about Jordation as a result. For now, Sydney Drop Bears not really being contested. They're pushing forward quite nicely, but this is where that sort of first choke does appear, and the dive straight in there from Masterminds. Nellery getting the first, Kiki following up with a couple as well. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see from Masterminds.
And this needed to be preempted by Drop Bears. Certainly, if you see Masterminds defending in whatever kind of defense they wanted. First of all, Jordation needed to note there wasn't another Widowmaker. That's the first obvious thing. And then you can basically tell, okay, there's not an Orisa Hog, so they're playing dive. Where and when are they going to dive us? And you got to be prepared to back off a little bit, play that disengage, and then punish the divers. That just didn't happen for Drop Bears.
No, certainly not, but Masterminds sort of came out of nowhere. Jordation getting his first pick of the game. Colorhex, though, trading straight back, and now trying to put a bit of that pressure onto Jordation himself. Oh my goodness, Colorhex just completely decimates him, and he's just dancing around right now, getting so many resets. Sydney Drop Bears fall apart.
I don't even know why the Hanzo is out right now either. Usually you would bring the Hanzo out with this composition if you were playing against Orisa Hog, a static defense. Cool. Run that Dragon Strike ultimate straight into them. But against Dive, it's going to do nothing. Billa knows as much as well. And now they're going to play a little bit of dive themselves. And the problem here is, now look at the ultimates, Masterminds, full ultimates nearly. Drop Bears, they've had to change comps.
Yeah, and Color Hex getting the Dragon Blade out immediately as soon as it comes up. It's going to result in another fight one here for Masterminds. Of course, not just off his back, but everyone else's. Yuki might have, I don't know, wasted the Pulse Bomb there, really. But at the end of the day, it's going to charge up so quick anyway. Masterminds still do have that self-destruct and almost the Sound Barrier and Primal Rage to hold on with.
As devastating as that fight was against the Drop Bears, you'll take it because a lot of ultimates were used. You need the time to build them up yourself. Like I said, compositional change. You start on 0. Cantus already starting on 1 kill against Jordation.
Yeah, so that's not what you want to see. This is, you know, we sort of set up the fact that maybe Masterminds utilized a little bit too much in that last fight. Sydney Drop Bears had their opportunity now, but straight off the bat, the initial pick goes the way of Masterminds, this time courtesy of support onto a Widowmaker. and the follow-up is there from Masterminds. This is going to allow them, afford them a lot of extra time to build up their own ultimates once more, and once Sydney Drop Bears are ready for their next push, they're going to have a brick wall to go up against.
We're also seeing less and less impact out of Jordation now. He's going to play out the next life of the Widowmaker because he does have Infrasight. Not only that, but Drop Bears need to use this information. If you're a dive team, a lot of dive happens with setup. So now you can set up against the enemy team because you know where they are. That's going to happen right now.
Certainly allowing Sydney Drop Bears to get that payload forward a little bit, but Infrasight is going to be cancelled now as Jordation does start to charge that ulti back up again. That's a great stick. Yuki shuts down Bertlog. There was a Transcendence, but he decides not to use it, or perhaps just didn't feel or wasn't able to use it. I'm not sure what the case was, but it's going to result in exactly what you're seeing before your eyes right now. He needed to use that.
And look at this. I got to go back to ultimates because this is one of the clearest ways to tell who is ahead and who is behind. And for the Sydney Drop Bears, they had ultimates, they had the trance. Because they lose that fight, they give Masterminds extra ult charge. If you're the team that's behind in ult economy and you're winning fights you shouldn't be, that's a big deal.
Well, now the Transcendence does come out there for Sydney Drop Bears. This is their fight to win. This is the one they must win. Color Hex trying to get anything happening with the Dragon Blade, and he does indeed.
Gross.
Oh, Billa, that was maybe not exactly where you wanted to blink, but all in all, Masterminds again coming away with the victory. Candace goes flying off the edge, but overall, I'm not sure that's going to be too effective as Kiki is getting so much free charge right out now. A lot of damage, and the self-destruct is going to come across from him.
Boom! Again, Kiki just finds these somehow. Like, it's crazy. Shoyo's just not having the fun, and not having a lot of fun right now.
Does he need it? Yes, apparently he does. Not going to be able to get too much out of it, though. And Jordation still does manage to get dropped. Overtime is ticking away, so the timer is running out for the Drop Bears, and it certainly doesn't seem to be getting any better for them as they try to contest this point. Yuki putting out a lot of damage on that Tracer, and, well, it's all said and done. 15-player kill streak. Yuki's going nuts.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, and Jordation finally changed onto Soldier as well. I feel like even halfway through, when he got the Infrasight and I mentioned Jordation playing Widow, that probably should have been his final life. In fact, he even maybe should have changed before that, but the only reason you'd keep it then is because you did have the ultimate, and if you got nothing then you gotta change off. He just had such a long life. I say that ironically because he also spent a lot of time dying, but he spent a long time on this Widowmaker hero without getting that impact in. Yep. Masterminds with their much faster, much better coordinated dive, just ripped right on through.
Straight back onto the Widowmaker, though, for Jordation on the defense here. Not necessarily sure that I agree with that one, because obviously Masterminds didn't really have any problems up against it. It is going to be a bit of a different Masterminds composition coming into their own attacking side, but we do have Color Hex on the Widow, and traditionally we saw Color Hex having a little bit of a better time in those 1v1s. I don't know. I don't think this is going to work for Jordation.
Yeah, well, it really depends if Jordation can win this duel, because then you shut down Color Hex. You kind of have the opposite effect, right? Because if you're not getting anything done on Widow, you're not existent. You're just, your team's playing with 5. But if you are a Widow beating the other Widow consistently, then the other team is kind of like playing with 5. So you can have that effect, and it goes either way. I'm saying Jordation could be Color Hex, but the opposite is also true. Color Hex could shut down Jordation again, forcing him to change, and that'll be it.
Well, Masterminds does look like they're going to go for the pirate ship here. And Sydney Drop Bears, they have the tools to defeat this. They have got, obviously, the Junkrat, which is going to be able to get rid of the Orisa shield quite easily. They've got Shoyo and Quats, able to kind of dislodge, I suppose, the Bastion from the cart.
Because the hold-hook combo is important for both teams here. Whoever sort of lands the first hook is going to get a huge advantage, no matter like who it is. If it's on Masterminds, Taki will rip through anybody with the Bastion. And then on Drop Bears, well, they have a lot of damage coming out from Billa, so it's that first hook is going to be important, and the headshot, the Widow duels are going to be important as well.
Color Hex just sneaking around, having a look, seeing if he can spot anyone out. Billa pops his head up, so too does Jordation, but the win does go the way of Jordation first off. I don't think it's going to affect Masterminds too much, though, as they're not really at the choke just yet, so they're going to continue that cart pushing forward.
Oh, Taki as well. All right, we're finally at the Jordation Nation. Hashtag
yeah, get your hashtag up in the chat, or whatever you want to do. Spam that thing. Regardless, though, Color Hex does come back in with a kill of his own, and Yuki being a real pain in the butt. That Scatter Arrow, oof, felt fun for Jordation. Follows right up with another kill onto Shoyo. And again, Yuki, she's not being put under any pressure, nor is Masterminds in general. Is this over already?
We're nearly there, Jordan. This is
a
little bit ridiculous.
It is a little bit. And, geez, boy oh boy. That is really not looking too fun for Drop Bears.
This is the part of the game where you're just walking into Taki. Yuki's landing shots, Dragon Strike out as well, yep.
Like, I mean, yeah, it is what it is, I guess, at that point. 4-0 for Masterminds, though. A very excellent performance from them today. And Drop Bears, well, unfortunately, their undefeated run no longer continues.
I'm a little bit speechless about that series because, again, like we just came into it expecting something totally different. Watching this cleanup at the end as well, like
it was just too easy.
You just knew what you needed to do to win there. Push the cart right across. Taki's like, okay, I'm not going to get jumped here. I need better sightlines. Back off. Anyone that wants to touch the point is going to get mowed down. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, great stuff there from Masterminds. So, a bit of work to be done here by Sydney Drop Bears coming into playoffs, I'd imagine.
Yeah, well, after 3 weeks of constant speculation, Elfishguy, oh, who is the top of Group B? Is it going to be the Drop Bears? Is it going to be Masterminds? It should be Masterminds. Oh, look, Drop Bears playing so well. That's gone now. That's out the window.
Yeah.
They are most definitely sitting up there above the Drop Bears, and they did it in such fine form today. Look at that. So often we've said as well over the last few weeks, look, it was a 4-0, but the score doesn't really represent how close the game was. Well, this is not that case.
Yep.
In this case, the 4-0 was very much how those games played out.
Absolutely representative of how that one was. I don't think Sydney Drop Bears were even close to getting a single map. Like, they didn't get a single point on Control, Hybrid, Hollywood. You know,
and when you say a single point, like they didn't get a single percent.
No, they didn't even get a single percent.
Yeah.
That's actually a good.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
Even worse for them. So I think that was really kind of how this whole thing was sort of built up, is that 100-0 on Control. It didn't really change from that at all throughout the entire series. Obviously, you go into your different analogies, how many meters and etc., but it felt like 100-0 for Masterminds.
It was to me the most one-sided matchup that I feel that I have seen in this entire Australian Contenders.
I mean, maybe debatable, but certainly today, I think, you know, it's just kind of crazy. Masterminds looked like they were just punching a punching bag, and for Sydney Drop Bears, you know, they sort of made some swing backs, but most of them missed, and it just didn't feel like they fought back. That's the part that really gets me, because this is a team that had a 12-0 run so far, expected to be one of the top teams in Australia, still is technically one of the top teams in Australia, but where were the hits, man? Where did they sort of show up to Masterminds and said, okay, well, you're better than us, but we're still kind of good? It just didn't feel like that.
Yeah, if there's one thing, I suppose, that the Drop Bears can take away from today, is that they don't have to play Masterminds in that round of 8 for the playoffs. So that's something. If Masterminds is your kryptonite, you're not going to have to verse them straight up. So you got that going for you. But it's certainly going to slow down their race towards the